Congress votes to ban TikTok. Will it pass the Senate? Will the president sign it? And why now? Why TikTok? What is behind all this? And what does it mean for creators? We'll talk about it next on the StreamLeader Report. Let's do a show.
It's the StreamLeader Report Live Panel. Creators talking to creators. Raw, real, and unscripted. And sometimes they say the quiet part out loud. Here are your hosts, Claudia Santiago, Rebecca Gunter, Rob Greenlee, and Ross Brand.
Hey gang, welcome to the StreamLeader Report. I'm Ross Brand. My show is the StreamLeader Report. And joining me, as always, Rebecca Gunter, the Peach-in-Chief of Stone Fruit and Stone Fruit Roll-Up. Claudia Santiago from ClaudiaSantiago.com. And Rob Greenlee, Hall of Fame podcaster, Podcasting Tips with Rob Greenlee, coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. Catch that on the StreamYard channel. And, well, you know, we've talked a lot about TikTok on this, not because most of us are creating a ton of content on TikTok, but because it's kind of a bellwether of where things are going with social and some of the issues, and clearly that's where the focus is right now. So just to open the floor, does anybody have a thought about why TikTok and why now?
Well, there's a little bit of a historical context to this. Back in, I believe it was back in 2020, Donald Trump tried to do a kick out of TikTok and actually got thrown out because there was such an uproar around it, and that there was also a lot of blowback that came from the Chinese side of this because it got all embroiled in the sanctions against China and the trade kind of war that was going on back then too. So this isn't the first time, and this bill has been around for almost a year now. So they've wanted to do it. I guess the bigger question is why now? I mean, why is it coming up again? Is it just because of our fear of China's influence? Because we're seeing a bunch of it kind of happening in our world, where we're getting increasingly concerned about the influence the Chinese government may be having on our country, and there may actually be some warfare going on that we are just not entirely aware of, that may be kind of cyber related, maybe linked up with influence that's going on, maybe Chinese nationals coming across our southern border. There's just, there's a lot of confluence of things going on here that may have brought this to a head again. So that's my setting it up here to some degree, but there's a lot of layers to this that we need to pull apart today. Yeah.
Claudia, your first thought on this?
Yeah, well, first of all, Rebecca won me over to TikTok. I had an account set up like years ago, and honestly, like my view of TikTok before was that everybody would just get on camera and wiggle their butts and, just do silly things and whatever, and then of course I also had my entertainer friends. Some of them were saying, whoa, my TikTok's blowing up, and then they were able to monetize and yada yada yada. And then comes along Rebecca, who is like rah TikTok. So away I went. I thought, okay, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to learn the ropes, and I'm still learning the ropes. The other day I was trying to do a video past 1 minute. I couldn't figure it out. But anyways, okay. So just to let you know, I did get in there and started seeing what was what. And I found it very, very interesting because it is such a platform that is really like no other. It's the capabilities of you're not just posting, but you're creating, and they actually do not want you, and they will ban or strike you out if you're, like, say you did a video on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube even. If you upload the very same thing, they will axe you. They will, so you have to create something different, add to it different, all that. So I found that creatively it was such an outlet for so many entertainers, but also businesses and people that just want to learn something or be up with the news or hear. This is what I loved about it was, I say loved because even Canada looks like they're jumping on board with this thing, that they were able to not only express their voices, but creatively express their journey and processing. They were able to process out loud without being dinged, or you know what I'm saying? So my take on this is I think TikTok is one of those at the US. This is what's in the news right now, but even this morning in Apple News, I saw that Canada did back in September 2023, we didn't know this, secretly they did a review of TikTok, and that's still under works. So, Canada, we're back. We're probably going to be, Canada's going to be looking at TikTok. And I think this, as I'm processing out loud here, I think TikTok will be one of the many platforms that's going to be started to be regulated. I think our free speech, there is the security aspect of it, which I totally get. But I don't really know what's behind it all as well. But I don't think TikTok's going to be the only one, guys. My take.
Rebecca, you're our resident TikTok expert. You're the one who really understands the rhythm and rhyme of the platform more than anyone else. What do you think's going on, or what are you hearing from TikTokers?
Oh my God, what a segue, RB. I've got it queued up with what TikTokers are having to say, and that is the most meta thing ever. And I don't mean the Zuckerberg universe, but like meta in the true sense of the word, that why not ask the community?
Okay.
I am certainly the StreamLeader Report weekly live panel show, Thursdays at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. Lover of TikTok. Do I know the most about it? I've aged out of knowing the most about it. My God, ask a 16-year-old. However, what I do love about it more than anything is this convergence of unique point of view. At any point and any time, a window onto the world with a first-person perspective that you may agree with, you may not agree with. It may provoke something, it may not, but I love this convergence of multiple different perspectives and opinions. So I brought a clip to the table. I brought this creator before. They go by V. They're an established media persona, to spend some time in the White House under this kind of like TikTok media flag of under the desk news, and quite a respected kind of voice within the TikTok creator community of just a very, I guess, a broadcasty way of presenting information. And I brought this clip because I think it's an excellent distillation of like what's really going on or what's got TikTok provoked. So let's do a clip.
Fire away.
All right. Bear with me, caller.
One moment, please.
I'm really laggy, you guys. Apologies.
No worries.
Play.
Go. Move.
Now, these are the 3 reasons why I do not support the bill. Despite Congressman Gallagher saying that this legislation is not a down payment on the Restrict Act, it very much does feel like a down payment on the Restrict Act. That's the name of Senator Mark Warner's bill he used to try and ban TikTok last year. That legislation gives broad overreach to the government to both survey and censor American citizens online. It was absolutely destroyed in a bipartisan fashion. Number 2, the timeline to sell TikTok is not realistic. They are basing it on the fact that Elon Musk bought Twitter in 6 months. But what they are failing to realize is Elon Musk bought Twitter because Twitter's shareholders forced him to buy it. A merger requires collaboration, and you are not going to get that kind of friendly collaboration during a forced divestiture. So ByteDance would have until September to find a buyer and transfer everything over. If they can't do it in that timeline, then they wouldn't have access to the app anymore to update it. So Congress is effectively banning the app by breaking it. And lastly, there isn't an heir apparent. Facebook, Meta, Twitter, Snapchat, they can't buy it because they would run into antitrust issues. So that leaves us with folks like Mr. Wonderful going on television to say that he wants to buy it so that he could use the 170 million Americans that use this app to train AI. Or Nancy Pelosi saying that it would be great for the American stock market for us to own the app instead of China. This legislation gives the president and the FBI the ability to identify and ban apps at their will. Please call your senator and tell them to vote no. I've made a very easy script with the bullet points. The TikTok ban has just passed the House. Now
that's a very StreamLeader Report piece of content in terms of the Restrict Act and also the heir apparent and also stock market. Ross, what do you think?
Well, I think there's several issues going on here. There is the free speech issue. If we can ban TikTok, then what's next? The slippery slope argument and so forth. There's also the national security issue. But I think there's other things going on as well that we don't know and one's not being shared with us. There's certainly talk about the impact of it on children. There's talk about propaganda. Those things aren't exclusive to TikTok. Are they worse on TikTok? I don't know, but they're certainly not exclusive to TikTok. And so then comes in the issue is this American tech companies not wanting the competition unless they own it? Is this
or media or the news, traditional media,
or the
network?
government wanting a monopoly on our data rather than being concerned about our privacy? Is it really about unifying the data from the other social media apps that they're tracking us constantly on? I don't know. On the other hand, there are certainly really good arguments that TikTok is, it's a weapon of an adversary, and it's something we certainly, our founding fathers, when they wrote the Constitution, couldn't have thought about. When they talk about free speech and so forth, the ability to have that kind of influence from overseas on Americans, and particularly young Americans. I think there's a lot of things going on. We might as well hear from, I think both presidential candidates have been completely muddled on this issue. They've both flip-flopped. They've both been a little bit hypocritical. Trump, as you mentioned, was for banning it, Rob, earlier, and now he's changed his tune a bit. So let's see what he says and why he's for.
So is that a
now.
recent clip or is that an old clip?
This is a recent clip, I believe.
One more thing from today's news: TikTok. The Republicans just voted Republicans and Democrats just voted to ban it. You don't think they should ban it right now?
Well, I didn't say anything other than you have to look at Facebook. Facebook is the enemy of the people. They did those lockboxes. They spent $500 million. If you spent more than $5,600 or whatever the number is, if you spent $100 more, they put you in prison for campaign violations, right? Zuckerberg, or Zuckerbucks, whatever you want to call him, is spending, the number is crazy. He's spending $500 million in the last election, and nothing happens to him. And that money's being passed all over the place, especially on the lockboxes, or so-called lockboxes, because they're not lockboxes. I call them open boxes. And I think that something has to be done with Facebook. And one thing I will say, I don't want Facebook to get bigger because I think Facebook is an equal threat. And that includes with China, because if China wants to know anything about what Facebook knows, they're going to give them the information.
One more thing from.
Well, I mean, that's another issue that he brings up there, is that most of our companies, our big corporations, are already in bed with China.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Claudia.
I've just got a thought, and there's a lot of power in our voices. There's a lot of power in the brain that we have, our thoughts, our processes, our experiences, our expertise is. There's a lot of power in the people's voices. And could it be that by 2030, there's a setup going on to try and silence the people's voices? Could it be?
Oh, it's already been happening, right?
Yeah, that's right. Could it be that this is way more than what they deem national security is actually us, our voices, our thoughts? Yeah, Rebecca, go.
I mean, I can't agree with you more, Claudia. Like, that's where I'm sus. I think that TikTok is a place in which dissent has fertile breeding grounds and information about. I mean, the clips from that are these like private, like gotcha clips of CEOs on the phone with their stakeholders, like bragging about the record profits and corporation, like corporate HR people firing you, where you've got like a phone here and you're recording the entire like conversation in which you're being fired by like a random person you've never met, kind of shining a light on how corporate culture is, is or isn't doing the thing right now. All of that is instantaneous and it's happening like at rapid fire. So what the CEO thought was a private phone call, someone recorded, and now everyone on TikTok has heard you brag about record profits and how much you're able to extract from the economy. Everyone on TikTok has heard, some rant at a gas station in which I don't know, something happens like a fender bender or whatever, and then millions of people are audience to that conversation and that contradiction. Pull back the curtain on who owns like 90% of the food manufactured in America and how that's linked to like, the Western biomedicine kind of machine of health and how that's tied to private equity. All of that stuff it's not like we've never had a platform for that kind of culture criticism. You certainly have the press and you can write about it. You can have a podcast, etc. But TikTok is like instantaneous, 3-minute download. And that kind of zeitgeist is very, very powerful for turning public opinion.
Yeah, I want to bring in Comic Crusaders here. Says, we as Americans know nothing, only what they want us to know. So I cannot assume how another country behaves based on the massive inundation of propaganda, fear-mongering.
Yeah, also, I think we have to question just about everything that we're hearing about this story, too, because it's also been reported in many sources that I've come across, too, that the U.S. government has not provided any hard evidence that shows TikTok shared any information with the Chinese authorities. So it's not like they're coming at us with any kind of credible threat information. The only credible threat information is coming from our political leaders and our media telling us that there's a problem here, but they're not really giving us any evidence that there really is any kind of connection between TikTok and the Chinese Communist Party. And if you look at the structure of TikTok or ByteDance, it does not have really any connection that has been able to be identified with the Chinese Communist Party, as far as on a data sharing or any kind of a relationship like that. Now, granted, that can easily be hid, and there's always backdoors in software, so you never really know what's going on here. But I do think that you have to question this because it appears to have been a bill that has been massively bipartisan in the House. And when was the last bill that we had that was bipartisan? and why is it that we have this happen as a bipartisan bill? Because I do think that this is a bill that checks the box for many different individuals that have an interest in the outcome here, from the intelligence security state to competitive corporations. I know that TikTok has been rolling out a e-commerce store that they're using their influencers to promote. And then here recently, this week, there was a bunch of news that came out about a platform called Timo, which is also a Chinese platform, that they've been linking up with this. But it's been clearly identified, and they've shared data and they've shared information around legal structures and technology structures, that Timo is a data gathering platform. It's kind of an e-commerce related thing. So that news coming out with details that is now being associated with TikTok is an interesting connection this past week around, what the motivation for this is. I think that the Amazon folks are very, very threatened by what TikTok is doing. So you have to factor that in here too.
And the bipartisanship in this case is a little bit concerning, like you said, Rob, because why all parties seem to be coming together?
Can't agree on anything.
Yeah. I think you have a clip here, Rebecca. It looks like Congressman Jamal Bowman wants to sound the alarm. You get the pun, right? Sound the alarm.
Very good. Ding dong. The app is dead. Yep.
Disenfranchised because we do a horrible job of reaching out to young voters, connecting with them, engaging them, and listening to them. TikTok is actually a platform where young voters have found community with each other, and they're learning a lot more about politics. They're learning more about their elected officials, votes their elected officials have taken, what we all stand for, and they're sharing information, whether it's related to foreign policy, domestic policy, childcare, education, whatever the issues are. So they are literally building their own community and building their own political power. Why are we then going to disenfranchise them even further, especially when young voters have a tendency to vote Democrat if we go about engaging them and doing it the right way? So having this discussion and trying to ban it or almost ban it makes no sense at this time.
I thought that was an
I
interesting.
can't imagine
take
what
on
his particular motivation is. Yeah.
Can I just pipe
But
in here a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the Civil War, when I went through that, okay, with communism, they did silence the people's voices temporarily through that time. And also what they were feeding to the public was the propaganda. So the television channels, there was only one channel and it was just their propaganda. So that's all that the people were able to consume, okay? And there was never stories of what was actually really going on at the stadium or where they were dropping people into the ocean by helicopter, none of that. Okay. All we knew was it was very dangerous to be out on the streets. And so not only did they feed their own agenda, but also if you in any way, shape, or form spoke out your opinion to the new regime that took over, you were killed. Or your family was killed. This is not anything new. We live in North America and Canada. They haven't done this stuff yet. But this is nothing new under the sun. It's been going on throughout history. Mm-hmm. Where are we prepared? And where are we naive to the fact that this might be the direction we are heading? And what happens to us as creatives, as business owners, entrepreneurs, if all of a sudden we can't even do this broadcast? We cannot speak our minds. They shut down the platforms, or like they're doing in China, where they survey all that you're doing online and they give you no loan for a home. You can't buy a car. You lose jobs.
Social credit score. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's very real. And right now, people are got to be super naive to think that the government and at headquarters, they cannot tap into absolutely everything we're talking about, even in DMs. So they have access to all that. Just saying. Not to instill fear. I'm bringing reality, guys.
Well, Claudia, as somebody who's been there, done that, and seen the writing on the wall, if you had a magic wand right now, what would you do for this situation?
Well, you know what? I look at my family, Okay. Part of the thing that Claudia Santiago suffered was I grew up in Canada not knowing a soul initially. All the family back there in the homeland fighting for their lives to stay alive. We could not even send letters and express our feelings. Okay. What I learned from them was stick together. Do not believe everything that's thrown at you. Make sure, not that you're living in fear and how should I say, suspicion all the time, but we have a great discerner in us. We have what one of my mentors says, a knower. Okay, we know when bullshit's being thrown out to us. Okay, use your discernment. Look at what's really going on. Stick together, and you know what? We've got the power to create. That's what my family did. Many in those types of countries are holding 2, 3, 4 jobs. This is not heard of up here in Canada and the U.S., but this has been going on in countries. I mean, I look at people over in Belarus and stuff that they are. That's the other thing. In those countries, they're capped as to the amount of money they can make. Why? Because the government doesn't want them being more powerful. So what would I say? Stick together. Use discernment. Use your common sense. Create, work hard, stay focused. Well, that's one of the things that, now when I ask my uncles, like, how did you survive this? They had to really develop a strong mindset to stay focused, and you do get into survival mode. It's not even fighting for their free speech. It's like, how are we going to eat? How are we going to feed these kids? We have no electricity. We have no power. Anyways, I'll shut up now, but yeah, we're going back to bare bones. It's like the pioneers. They had to survive. They had to use everything within them to plow new territory, new ground. And I think that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be plowing new territory, new ground with technology, with everything that we're facing. Yeah. I don't think we're going to be riding the same old horse for years to come.
There's also another aspect of this bill that isn't being talked about a lot too, is that TikTok would be prohibited from app stores, such as those offered by Apple and Google, as well as web hosting services until the divestiture occurs. And this sets a precedent of the U.S. government cracking down on websites as well. That is linked up with some social media related activities or speech or those kind of things, as really it uses the term kind of, what's the term that they use? Foreign adversary. But I think that there's clauses in there, and I don't have it right in front of me, that actually opens that up a little bit. It doesn't have to be a foreign adversary. But really the concern is that, one of the aspects of the internet right now has been that the web has not been really censored at the same level, where the website services companies haven't been targeted yet. But this may open the door towards that happening. And what other apps might we deem as a threat to our country, right? Is X or Twitter going to be deemed as a threat to the country, and Elon's going to be targeted? Is that who's going to be next on this?
Well, we saw the first step to that, right?
Yeah.
AOC in Congress said he changed the algorithm in 2022, and that's election tampering, which is kind of ironic given the fact that, like, all the tampering that went on before he bought it, and all the security state involvement and censorship and so forth. But in other words, once you open the door to this, the arguments can be made in all sorts of directions, and you don't know where it goes. And I mean, I'm in the middle on this issue. I don't have a strong sense either way. I see all the sort of conspiracy thinking that goes into why we shouldn't ban it, and I think some of that thinking isn't really conspiracy. I think there's a lot fishy stuff going on. I also understand where some people are coming from in terms of banning it. Let's just hear from Senator Josh Hawley, who's kind of gives the standard majority view, even though we don't know what the majority is in the Senate, but he kind of reflects the House view on things.
What needs to happen here is there needs to be a firewall between TikTok and Beijing, because the whole deal is all the information TikTok gets from Americans is available to the Chinese Communist Party. That's the problem. That's why it's a security threat. That's why they want to get into our phones so they can get this information on us. We need to put up a firewall. If they would sell TikTok, that's fine. If they won't sell them, then we're going to have to ban it.
Where's the evidence of that? That's the question I have for him.
Well, I think some people feel like they don't necessarily have to be doing it at the moment, but what Chinese company is going to say no if the government comes knocking on the door and says, "Hey, we need this. Do you want to disappear? Well, do you want to help us out with the data we need?"
That's what needs to be investigated, because everything I've read is that TikTok is a solely owned and operated U.S. company. So it originated out of China. But it doesn't have any legal ties that have been identified to the Chinese. So it could be a little bit of a red herring here, that they're using this. But it's possible that data sharing can happen. I mean, backdoors have existed. I mean, just the Twitter files were an example of that. That's what happened to Twitter, is that there was a backdoor to the national security state. Certainly that could be the case with TikTok or Temu or any of these.
Takes one
apps.
to know one.
Right. And to be entirely frank about it, is that this is a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black. Is I believe that the U.S. government is doing all these things with all of these other social apps to us already. So this is like being worried about Chinese Communist Party, while at the same time they're doing the same thing to us for their benefit. So it's really kind of concerning. This is a way to distract attention, probably from what the U.S. government is doing to us. So,
Rebecca, you got another clip? Rebecca, you're on mute. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw that at you so quickly.
Sorry, Ross. Sorry about that.
You got to keep your mic on for this for the clip.
I know. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. Okay. Yeah, we have the CEO of TikTok, Mr. Jeff. I thought it would be interesting to hear what the CEO of TikTok has to say. All right. We're mic'd up and ready to go.
Hi, everyone. It's Show here. Just wanted to share some thoughts with our US users about the disappointing vote in the House of Representatives. There has been a lot of misinformation, and I hope to clarify some things. First, thank you to our incredible community. You are what makes TikTok so special. Thank you for making your voices heard. Over the last few years, we have invested to keep your data safe and our platform free from outside manipulation. We have committed that we will continue to do so. This legislation, if signed into law, will lead to a ban of TikTok in the United States. Even the bill sponsors admit that that's their goal. This bill gives more power to a handful of other social media companies. It will also take billions of dollars out of the pockets of creators and small businesses. It will put more than 300,000 American jobs at risk, and it will take away your TikTok. We know how important TikTok is to all of you. It has given our 170 million users a platform to freely express themselves, and has empowered more than 7 million businesses in the United States. Our platform matters to the small business owners who rely on TikTok to make ends meet, to the teachers who inspire millions of students to learn, and to everyone who discovers and finds joy on TikTok. We will not stop fighting and advocating for you. We will continue to do all we can, including exercising our legal rights, to protect this amazing platform that we have built with you. We believe we can overcome this together. I encourage you to keep sharing your stories. Share them with your friends. Share them with your family. Share them with your senators. Protect your constitutional rights. make your voices heard. Love you all.
I mean, not surprising the messaging there, for
Right,
sure.
right.
But I thought it was I thought it would be interesting to hear from him what the hot take of what's
One
TikTok
thing
have to say.
I guess I would miss if TikTok went away. I mean, he put it in a positive vein, which is, your teachers are inspiring and stuff. It also has given us a look into some of the crazy that goes on in our classrooms and schools.
And our culture too.
Yeah, from things that teachers are saying to some of the violence in schools and different things that you just might not have been aware of if people weren't silly enough to be recording themselves doing all sorts of and saying all sorts of stupid things, and not just kids, but the teachers themselves in many cases put the content up there, and we get a window into that. Who do we have next, Rebecca?
This next clip is a creator who's, I think this is germane to our show here, because it's really about like where are creators going to go when TikTok goes away. I'm sorry, I'm so laggy. Sorry, you guys. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
I'm so laggy.
I just want to say thank you to all of those that are watching online live. I've been jumping around from YouTube to LinkedIn to Facebook. Haven't checked Twitter yet, but I see a whole bunch of you there and some awesome comments as well, insights.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to everybody who's watching on X, because last week and this week we've had a pretty big turnout from X in comparison to the past and in comparison to other platforms. So thank you to everyone on X who's been joining us the last few weeks.
Sorry, Elon, I called it Twitter. I meant X.
That's all right.
What a beautiful way to fill that time.
All right, ready to roll?
Yeah.
TikTok gets banned in the US. Where do you think everyone's going? I can only think of one place. It ain't Instagram. That's a no-go. I think as a community on TikTok, we're all like, no, Mark Zuckerberg is going down. So that leaves us one or two places. Twitter, not many people are going to go on there because there's too much reading to do. I'm not joking. Someone said that to me. MySpace would be great, but they'd have to make an announcement that they're doing something really new, really quick right now. So that leaves us YouTube Shorts. That's where everyone's going to be going. That's where I'll be going. So follow me over there. Thanks. TikTok gets banned in the US. Where do you think everyone's going?
True. Where are we all going?
Where is everybody going? Where is everybody from TikTok going to go? Better question is, what should creators who have made TikTok an important part of their outreach, where should they be? What should they be doing now in case this happens?
Who has the closest algorithm? That's what I'd like to know. Because to me, that's one of the differences.
Yeah, keep in mind too that all those companies, Google, Facebook, have very close security state related relationships with the federal government. So there is an interest in driving people out of TikTok into those other platforms. And this fellow raises a very good point, is that where are those users going to go? They're going to go to the platforms that have those security state relationships already. So Twitter is a little bit of the outlier there, right? That's why I speculate that they're probably next on the target list.
Mm-hmm. And who knows why Zuckerberg set up Threads? You never know what he's working.
When Twitter goes down, that's the only place for that kind of content.
The next TikTok
failure. It's been.
But yeah, I mean, Zuckerberg's got to. Musk has got to be in the crosshairs because he went after the security state and he exposed what they were doing there.
Yep.
Boy, that would be some kind of fight.
Can I bring us back to Canada for a minute?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, forever.
Here, I got that right. Anyways, here I'm nice and close to Canada.
Yes.
That's my bling hat that I wear on stage when I'm talking about Canada. All right, so this morning I found on Apple News and I was like, what? Say what? Because all of this is so focused on the US, and it says the federal government reveals it ordered a national security review on TikTok in September. And it was a hush thing. Says Ottawa, the federal Liberals ordered a national security review of popular video app TikTok in September 2023, but did not disclose it publicly. This is still an ongoing case. We can't comment further because of the confidentiality provisions in the Investment Canada Act. What is that? A spokesman, right? Just like, okay. The revelation comes after the U.S. House Representatives passed the bill on Wednesday to ban TikTok, blah, blah, blah. So they're still doing their investigation in Canada. Now, in Canada, we can't monetize TikTok. I don't know if you guys knew that. That's another thing. Yeah, we can't monetize it. Now, what's interesting, though, is that this review has been going on for some time here. And so, you know, Canada might be passing something as well if the U.S. is, you see what I'm saying? It's huge.
Well, they're all working together. I mean, the national security state works with most of the countries of the world, right, that are on their side. So, right.
Yeah.
That's the key word, that are on their side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Italy just, I don't know, I forget when it happened, but Italy fined 3 different divisions of TikTok or something like that pretty severely over what it said were violations.
So
what were those violations
I don't
exactly?
know. I'm looking for it. At the
No.
moment.
Sorry, Ross, on the spot. Can you put your reference up there in MLS style in the comments?
Now, Rebecca, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's videos on TikTok coaching people on TikTok, creators on TikTok, how to spot if you're actually on a fake TikTok app.
What?
Have you seen that?
No, girl.
Oh yeah,
You're bringing some spicy Canadian flavor.
whole other ball of wax. Yeah, I've heard it a few times now.
Like a mirror site or something.
Yeah. And so they're literally showing you that when you post something, you should have all these options to edit your videos, to add different things. And if you're missing certain things, they're telling you that's a fake TikTok site.
How is that happening through the app on your phone? Question mark.
I don't know. And so I hadn't even thought of that, because usually when you go into Apple, you know, the app store, and you start seeing, you know, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you download those apps because you see the logo and you think that's the real thing. So what have we got coming now with this?
Counterfeit apps. I'm going to be holding my app up to the light to see if it's watermarked.
Right? But, you know, they were literally showing fake TikTok apps and what to watch for in case that you've downloaded something like that or you're on that. I thought, wow. And it looked the same, you guys. It really did, except if you clicked on certain things, it was missing certain types of things that you can do on TikTok.
All right, you asked Rebecca. Here it is. Italy fines TikTok $11 million for failing to protect minors. March 14, 2024. So just a few days ago. No, that's today. That's today.
God. Look
Italy's
how on topic the StreamLeader Report is.
Italy's competition authorities fined TikTok 10 million euros, 11 million US, for failing to control the spread of content that it said threatened the safety of minors and other vulnerable people. The antitrust agency, AGCM, said Thursday that TikTok, which is owned by China's ByteDance, had failed to take into account the specific vulnerabilities of adolescents using its platform, such as a tendency toward copying group behaviors. The watchdog announced an investigation into TikTok's content moderation practices last March. In a statement Thursday, it said the video sharing platform has not taken adequate measures to avoid the spread of harmful content, adding that its algorithms meant such content could be, quote, systematically proposed to users. An example of harmful content mentioned by AGCM is what is known as the French scar trend, which involves TikTok users pinching their own cheeks to leave a lasting bruise. A TikTok spokesperson told CNN that it disagreed with the decision. The so-called French scar content averaged just 100 daily searches in Italy prior to the announcement last year, and we long ago restricted visibility of this content. It goes on to say TikTok has been in the crosshairs of European regulators for some time and has already faced fines totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. The Irish Data Protection Commission, which oversees TikTok's activities across the European Union, ordered the platform in September to pay $376 million in fines, arguing that it failed to protect children. The regulator found that newly created profiles of children were set to public by default, meaning anybody on the internet could view them. And so there you have it.
I'm sure the Italian government doesn't have any problems with with dissent happening on TikTok either, right?
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's going to be many months before, even if it passes the Senate, it's going to be, I think, up to 6 months before we actually see anything happen. And by then, probably the presidential election will have happened, and we'll see, if there's a new administration that comes in, is the policy on TikTok going to change or not, based on what Donald Trump just said. If he does get reelected or put back into office, the whole thing may be, done deal by then, or maybe gets pulled back again.
Yeah.
I thought V's point from Under the Desk News was very interesting about may not be a ban, but we're going to break it, and essentially doing the same thing.
Well, it's either a sale or a ban, one of the two. And the first option that's offered is a sale. And I know that there's been a variety of companies that have already issued letters to TikTok offering to purchase them. And one of them was the parent company of Rumble. So
Crazy.
When I told
the money for that.
That's what I told my 16-year-old. They were like, "Can Rumble afford that?" I'm like, "Oh
yeah,
my
right.
God."
Right. Like, hey, why don't you put that money in the Rumble studio and you're,
Bring back Vine.
Well, that's another one of those platforms that may be targeted after, if this bill passes, as well as Rumble.
Rumble, yeah.
Maybe Bob will come back.
Yeah, that's it.
Lab, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
The greatest of all social media platforms.
This stuff can be so heavy, and honestly, even for our viewers, and it can instill such fear. And like I said earlier in that question Rebecca asked me, how, what would be a tip? My family loves to laugh. When we get together, they do skits, they tell jokes, and that's a strength that we all have. So I just want to encourage everybody in that as well. Don't forget your humanity, and don't forget you're not dead yet. And we still got a lot within us to create. And but yeah, through all this heavy stuff, I'm not trying to minimize it. It is very real in the direction that it seems like we're heading. I don't think TikTok's going to be the only one that's going to land on the chopping block, so to speak, to that they're going to be reviewing, not just in the US, but globally. But yeah, I just want to help everybody get back to their humanity too, because there's so much strength within us, and laughter is one of them.
That's a beautiful, beautiful point. And I think I hear the rumblings of a StreamLeader Report comedy show.
Woo!
Traveling comedy
variety show.
Oh yeah, on the cruise. Longtime fans of the StreamLeader Report will remember that we're doing a world cruise.
Yes.
Starring the Santiago family.
I am there, you guys.
This sort of like they have to sell it in 6 months. First of all, how do you get fair market price for something when everybody knows you have to sell it or else, right?
Right.
Unless there's a lot of competition to buy it, which if it's really profitable, there may well be. But that's a short window with a lot of pressure and no option of going, nah, you know what? If you're not willing to pay this, I'm backing out. It's like sell it or lose it.
And V's point, I think, of a merger like that or a transfer of power requires collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on who buys it, I guess, to the degree that they have to do integration with another company or multiple companies.
Could it be that the government wants shares in these companies? Could it be there's a new system being put together where they're part owners? Hey, Rob?
That's what I said, Claudia.
Well,
like, show me all the stock. Show me all the stock that the yes votes had in Meta. That's what I'd like to know.
Hello, right?
Well, you know,
I remember
one of the things that came up in my mind as I was thinking about this is that if it is possible that if this bill does pass the Senate and it gets signed, which Biden has already said he's going to sign the bill if it makes it past the Senate, is one of the things that Elon has not done is disclose the spectrum of owners that he has that invested part of that $44 billion that he had to pay for it, because he does have a list. I think it's like it's a pretty long list of people that put capital into that could be, if they happen to be considered to be people that have linkages with a foreign adversary, right? That they could apply this law to Twitter. But we don't really know the ownership list of X or Twitter right now. Sure, Elon owns a big chunk of it, but what are the other owners? And this foreign adversary law could be applied to that if some group of it, so let's say, you know, Russia investors or whatever put money into Twitter, then that could be identified as a foreign adversary.
Right.
Who's in bed with who? Hey, I mean, there's a lot of money in the U.S., but there's a heck of a lot of more money outside.
Right.
So
wanting to invest here. Right. And China's doing that too. They're buying up farmland. They're buying companies. China's been actively involved in the U.S. economically for decades. So there isn't really anything new here that's going on. I just think that there's a lot of spin up around
and
control.
in ways that are more concerning than what video clips people are watching, perhaps. Like,
yeah, exactly.
if they're making our medicine, if they are buying up farmland near,
I would say those are more
nuclear
concerning
sites and things like
Right.
that. It's like, and also just our own food supply, and to lose control of our food supply.
Why aren't we concerned about those things, but we're all of a sudden concerned about information and,
or military age men from China crossing from
border. We're not worried about
Panama
that.
coming up, which is different than the rest of the migrant flow, where it's, clearly an antagonistic group rather than a, hey, let me see if I can get away with getting to America. This is like we're on a mission here.
Well, it's been called out by multiple people that I've heard that are actually down in South America that has said that the Chinese have their own migration pathway with their own migrant centers, their own pathways, and their own assistance for making it to the U.S. border.
Right. And unlike the people from all the rest of the world, generally,
As a different
people
pathway.
will talk to media and are more open. Not in the case of those migrants from China. They're very...
It's organized, it's structured.
Yeah, it's like we really don't want
it.
any spotlight on what we're doing.
Right.
As I've toured through different countries in South America, it is so interesting to see Chinese people speaking Spanish. It is like really, really kind of cool. And I mean, and I mean, they are hard workers and very innovative, and they're setting up small stores, larger stores all over. It's really quite something, the migration out that way. And years ago, there was a huge migration from Germany and Italy. I mean, when you go into Argentina, I mean, they are blonde, green eyes. They, they're speaking Spanish, but they look like Italians. And it's really quite something, but very resourceful people and beautiful culture.
Yeah, in New York City, there are a lot of Cuban restaurants that are actually Chinese Cuban restaurants where they serve a mix of traditional Cuban food and westernized Chinese food. But it's just interesting because most people don't think of that, but there is quite a strong population from Asia that's in Cuba.
Yeah,
Ross, I want to rope. Sorry.
Oh,
now
no,
I want to rope a vieja lo mein. I'm thinking of all the crossover food.
Yeah.
There's an article out, and I've heard this talked about too, that the real concern about this too is disinformation. But I don't know about each one of you. Your experience with TikTok, have you experienced any political misinformation on TikTok? I haven't really experienced that. So if they're using that as a reason to do this, I'm not sure it's valid. I don't know. I mean, have you guys felt like there was political misinformation in there?
I mean, I wouldn't say misinformation, but I would say it's incendiary information. There's a lot about micro communities and how to tap out of capitalism. And I feel like that's probably one of the areas that folks would point to and be like, aha, because there's just a lot of protesting. There's a big Kellogg's protest happening right now that started on TikTok. How to grow your own food, how to barter, how to stop being dependent on fossil fuels.
I don't know if that's misinformation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's misinformation, but I would say it's an alternative to capitalism, which is definitely not what the social media platforms want you to do.
Or self-sufficiency is another thing too that takes people out of the system. Right.
Out of the system. I think, Rob, I could kiss you right now. Out of the system is the theme. You don't need to go to a big university to learn things. I'll teach you right now. I'm a PhD in economics. You don't have to you don't have to go to the grocery store. I'll teach you how to grow onions from the onion tops in your garden. You don't have to buy all kinds of new clothes. I'll show you how to sew your own. There's such a tap out, a turn on, tune in, drop out moment. I think you really hit the nail on the head of opting out of systems.
And this is exactly what, when I said when communism hit my homeland, this is exactly what my aunts and uncles and grandma and grandpa said. Is they were all sharing, if somebody had a few baby chickies, they all shared the little baby chickies to grow chickens so that they would have eggs, they would have protein to eat when there was no food. So, this is the kind of self-sufficiency, almost like I said, like being a pioneer. I feel that in this new move sort of thing that's happening, we are going to have to think like pioneers. And I think that I'm not downplaying the China thing and the national security thing, but I really think that part of their concern of national security is us. It's our voice. It's our power to create. It's our power to be self-sufficient.
It's all about us, right?
So that we cannot be completely controlled. There may come a time and age where it's free speech is squashed, but we might even be told what to say. When they take prisoners captive and they throw them on camera and they tell them what to say, in order for them to survive, they have to say what they're being told to say. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and it's a tough.
Dr. Tachi agrees. Dr. Tachi knows media, tech, media, pop culture better than anybody. So if you get an agreement from her, it means you're right on the target.
Yeah, what's tough about it though is that all of us are in this very difficult situation because if you pull out of the system, you're not going to be informed about what the system is imposing on our world, and you're not going to be able to have an influence on it, right? So the more people pull out of the system, the government may lose control, but you as an individual having an impact on what's the system is, you're basically removing yourself from having influence over that as well. And that's the difficult place that all of us are in.
My uncles always said, don't run away. We didn't run away from it. We knew what was going on.
Yep.
But we pulled together and we reinvented, we innovated. And in that age, this was years back, their voices weren't just silenced. They were told what to say. And if they did not say those things, they were killed. Okay. So they were going through that years ago. And what they told me is they had to, in order to survive, abide by the rules and almost play stupid in a way, like, like when a dog's in danger, they lay down and play dead, right, to survive. Okay. In some ways, they had to do that. They were still informed, but they were in survival mode. And there's wisdom to that. Like, I totally agree with that, Rob. There's wisdom. Some people might go, I'm just getting away from it all. It's like,
right. I'm going to go out in the woods and unplug. Right. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
You'd have to have really some skill set that most people don't have in order to be able to do that, right? And hopefully that won't be imposed on all of us.
Well, it's a very difficult thing to do. I think a lot of people glamorize it as something that's they would love to aspire to do, is just unplug and pull out of the kind of electronic world that we're in now. But it's not as easy as you think it is. And that's kind of what our leaders are counting on, is that people don't have those skills anymore, and they're dependent on the electronic infrastructure that we have now. And technology is giving them a lot of weapons and tools against people as well as adversaries. So,
yeah. I mean, one thing that totalitarian governments have always been able to do is you keep the people in line and shut off the electricity from time to time, shut down the grid, and ration that. And now you've got a really subservient population. And I mean, we saw with lockdowns during COVID, people went along and, they trusted the government and so forth. What would happen if the government took the next step and said, if you don't stay home, we're gonna make it dark in your area. We're gonna disconnect you.
I think this has happened in California. They had rolling blackouts over the last couple of years that have gone on during the summer months. I don't know if that's just because we have a horrible grid system, but there could be other reasons.
And was the Facebook, Instagram blackout really a blackout?
Right. Yeah.
Dave
or
Canyon,
was it
Dave
a cyber
Canyon
attack?
on Facebook says, doesn't it all speak to a much larger picture of distrust by the people for the government? And it does. I think there's an element. There's a huge element in how
in the media too.
We're coming to this. I think you're hearing in what everybody's saying. The reason why I'm kind of not totally on one side or the other is because I don't trust international organizations or, the Chinese government or most other governments. I trust them even less than I trust our government. So it's I mean, it's like, I think all experts and, all, institutions and, sources of authority have lost a lot of credibility over the last several years. And certainly at home, that's true. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm buying an exact moral equivalence either with, other governments and other international institutions. The WHO isn't looking out for me either, just because I'm not happy with, American medical care, let's say, or
You know, I love this show. I love that we can talk so openly. You know, I've never been a mom, and you guys know part of that story, but I have a lot of younger generation peoples around me, male and female, that they're seeing some of this going down, and they're going like, what is the hope for us? Like, what the heck? Like, you know, should I be quitting my job? Should I not go to school? Should I not go to college? Should I not create a business? Because it sounds like I'm going to have to build a bunker and hide, you know? So my heart is in, and this is what also why I love this show, is because we can talk about this. I can say, hey, here's a link, go check it out. There's some people really with a lot of expertise and experience, and we're talking about this stuff. So I just want to throw out hope to people out there in this younger generation that one key is not to run away from it. Be in the media, get in the tech, get in there and educate yourselves, empower yourselves, get around people that are thinking and develop your own, like for some of us coaches, we got to help this younger generation develop ways that they can think for themselves, you know?
And you got to keep living. I mean, nobody knows how much time they have on this planet. So, you know, it's sort of yes, there are all sorts of threats out there, but the hysterics shouldn't take shouldn't take over to where you're still not living and loving and, you know, growing and doing things, because we don't know how long we have, and we don't know when the end is going to come. So, you know, it's just part of who we are. So some of these problems may end up getting solved. These things may end up working themselves out, and, you know, generations to come might not have to face the challenges we think we're going to face. So,
and you know, one of the things I do is that I'm an entertainer. That's one of the things I do, and I love getting on a live stage. Why? Because people are bombarded with this kind of stuff all week, all month, all year, and it's heavy and it's hard and sometimes feels hopeless. But when we get face to face, and I can bring joy and bring how should I say inspire that part of humanity that we need. We need to be creative. We need to inspire that. And I love that. It doesn't require me being online. I'm face to face on stage, but it also gives me an outlet to really encourage people that we are human. Learn how to paint. If you don't even have a voice, sing anyway. That joy is for you. Those are the kinds of things. And again, going back to Rebecca's question, that some of the things that my uncles and my family did through all the communist regime is doesn't matter if you have a good voice, sing anyway. You know what? Have fun. You know, paint, throw some stuff on a canvas, create, make something out of wood. Anyways, just want to encourage that younger generation, because I do know they watch this show. And I do want to tell you guys that it's not hopeless, and to keep moving forward, but don't put your head in the sand. Don't run away.
Yeah.
One of the worst things you can do.
Well, that's a great message.
Yeah, exactly. Leaving us punch it up.
I think we should wrap it up on that note, because that's beautiful, Claudia. And this is the StreamLeader Report Live Panel. We are here just about every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays, which is Thursdays. And for Rob Greenlee, Hall of Fame podcaster, international recording artist Claudia Santiago, and Peach in Chief at Stone Fruit, Rebecca Gunter, I'm Ross Brand. This has been the StreamLeader Report Live Panel. We'll see you again soon on another episode of the StreamLeader Report. Take care, everybody.
Bye.